Thank you for tuning in to Change and Thrive. I'm your host, Dr. Wendy Heckelman, founder and CEO of WLH Consulting and Learning Solutions. Be sure to subscribe by clicking the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss an episode. When we talk about our constantly changing landscape, some people use the term VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This past year has been one of unprecedented change, with challenges in how we live and how we work. Amidst the swirl, there have been tremendous learnings that can be applied to 2021 and beyond. So in honor of Women's History Month, we're starting a Women's Spotlight on those women who have changed and thrived. So I am honored to have Kelly Rodriguez, who is the chair of the HBA's Southeast chapter and president of the Vincent Group. Kelly, welcome to today's podcast.
Wow, Wendy, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
I'm so happy that you are the first woman to kick off this spotlight because you really epitomize agility. And I know how much change and thriving you did last year, especially in your leadership of the HBA Southeast chapter. And I know how many changes that you made and you kept everybody moving. So my first question, which is, when you reflect on last year, what were some of the challenges that you faced both personally and professionally?
Last year was one for the record books. I think we have heard so many different stories from so many different individuals. Personally, I just thought that this was just going to go away. I think all of us did in the beginning of 2020. We just kept on marching forward with HBA, our jobs. And then we realized that we needed to huddle together. And I think all of us brought our friends and families closer than they've ever been before. Virtually setting up, Zooms and things like that. But the one thing that I reflected on, I remember early on, is it was bringing back memories of 9/11 for me. At that horrible juncture, Americans became very close. And I saw that happen in our community here where we live, but my professional community. And I think that is what helped me, adapt and overcome. I had so many people to be able to lean on. And I'm one of these people that don't want to be able to reach out to other people. One thing I remember reaching out to you and saying, oh my God, I came back, the stores are just empty. I can't find any meat or whatever. And you hooked me up and we had a distant meat swap in our driveway. But yeah, just these crazy things that we just didn't think that would happen here in the United States happened. And I think we all came together to find solutions.
So Kelly, you've been really talking about some of those challenges from last year and how you really leaned in to your professional network. Personally, people came together. What I would really like to understand, as a woman leader, how did you adapt?
I think that we had to really dig deep within ourselves. And I feel like I'm fortunate in that I have some of these skill sets, but I really had to stretch them. And the two, I think, are being authentic, but also bringing out your empathy, because there's so much flux, there's so much swirl, as you say, going on, and we're trying to adapt and juggle. I personally have my elderly parents, both my husband and mine, that we're taking care of. So we're on that end of the spectrum. But so many of my colleagues, both professionally at work and through healthcare business women, have large families that are all home or still home. I had to realize it's okay if, doors are slamming, people are coming into their offices, cats are jumping up on the computer. This is so overused, but it's the new normal. And I think we have to empathize and understand that we are so fortunate to be able to continue to operate virtually, because there's so many underprivileged communities that don't have that option. Their children can't be connected virtually. They don't have Wi-Fi or whatever. And the other is being authentic. Be your authentic self as to who you are. It's too much work to be someone else. And I think that your communities will definitely appreciate you for that.
I love the two characteristics that you were talking about, authenticity and empathy. And I believe that empathy is one of the critical capabilities that have emerged as imperative for all leaders. And I also believe that it's very much misunderstood. People think it's empathy. It's, oh yeah, I agree. I get it. Empathy is really seeking to really understand, to come to a deeper level of understanding so you can then be supportive as appropriate. And we would say that important leadership characteristic today and going beyond is really empathetic leadership. And I love the fact that you talk about authenticity, because one of the things that I can remember, as you have for the past year, is we got a sense of who people really were, their authentic selves, because people had to show up with whatever the circumstances were that was going on in their life. And as a leader, I think it was really important for the leaders to give people permission to have time and space when they needed it, because they were balancing competing demands, and to really seek to understand what everybody's personal challenges were and support them as best they could. So I love the construct of empathetic leadership and authenticity. So thank you for bringing that forward. So I have a question. We're now in 2021. We are moving forward. There is glimmers of hope. We have 3 vaccines that are now on the market. And what lessons learned from 2020 do you believe we need to continue to apply in 2021 and beyond?
Oh my goodness. I was one of these, and I still am. I'm an A type person. High powered, high energy. I think those things have driven me to where I am. But what I've realized is that we're each individual, unique people and professionals, and everyone has their different strengths. And I think that just came to the forefront in 2020, and will definitely carry on to 2021 and the future for me. Is that, saying how busy you are and how overworked, and I have, all these emails and meetings and things like that, that we used to carry that like a badge of honor. I mean, I did anyway. And I thought back to all of my time working in big pharma. It was like all of us were trying to outdo each other, right? It was like, oh, who's the busiest? Take a breath. And I think that the pandemic has enabled us to reflect onto what is actually really important. And that is our family and our friends and the time that we have with them. And yes, work, I love work, and I always will work. I think people are saying, oh, you moved down to Florida, so are you ready to retire? Oh, no, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I do realize that I'm not going to carry around how busy I am as my badge of honor. It's all about, what I can do in my job and be the best that I can be, but also in my personal life.
I love that. And I think as listeners to this podcast, it's really understanding that time is short on earth, and we need to be our best selves and our best leaders as we work, in our lives, live our lives, and support our employees or the teams that we lead. So that empathy you talked about, that authenticity, that balance that so many women leaders struggle with, because we all struggle with it, are really important lessons learned as we look towards today and into the future. Any other thoughts that you have as we start to close out today's podcast? Any other nuggets of wisdom you'd like to share?
Well, I don't know if it's wisdom, but I just want to remind everyone that in no time in history have 5 generations been working together. And I think bridging that multi-generational gap and understanding how each generation communicates, how they receive information, how they like to be communicated to is critical. And especially since we're not able to sit eyeball to eyeball across the desk with individuals or have a cup of coffee. I think that that's something that is critical, and especially for, some of the baby boomers and even the X Gen, they're not as technically savvy, although they're getting with it now. And we have to be patient. And I think that there's so many books and, presentations on different generations. And I think that that has really helped me to be able to be successful.
I love the comment in terms of the multi-generational and how you lead teams and individuals, and also be sensitive to the huge range of orientation where people are coming from and where their skills are. So I really very much, Kelly, want to thank you for participating on the Woman Spotlight podcast today. I think your insights are going to be valuable to our listeners. And I certainly love working alongside you with HBA, and cannot thank you enough for joining today.
Thank you, Wendy. Have a great rest of your week.
As we close out today's podcast, there's some important lessons learned that Kelly Rodriguez is sharing, and that's about being an authentic and an empathetic leader, paying attention to the humanness of how we balance our lives, and to pay attention to the multi-generational issues in terms of workplace that women leaders, as well as male leaders, can bring forward. So again, I'm Dr. Wendy Heckelman. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.